All right, ready to dive into a case that'll really make you think.
Oh, absolutely. This one's a real head scratcher.
We're talking about the disappearance of Arnold Archambo and Ruby Brewer.
Back in 92,
Yeah, 1992 in South Dakota.
a young couple vanishes after a car accident
And their bodies are found months later.
under the most bizarre circumstances.
It's a case with twists and turns that'll leave you questioning everything.
It really highlights the challenges of piecing together what happened.
Especially when so much time has passed.
Memories fade, the environment changes.
It makes you wonder, how do you even begin to solve a case like that?
Well, you start with the basics.
Okay, so let's set the scene. December 1992. It's a dark, cold morning on Highway 281.
Near Lake Andy, South Dakota.
A car is found overturned in a ditch.
And inside is 17-year-old Tracy Dion.
She's the only one there.
Tracy was traveling with her cousin, 18-year-old Ruby Brewer, and Ruby's boyfriend.
20-year-old Arnold Archambo.
They were on their way home after a night out.
According to Tracy, the car lost control.
She blacked out.
And when she came to, she was alone.
Right from the start, there's something that doesn't quite add up.
What's that?
The car was in a ditch that held water,
Okay, yeah.
but the windows were intact,
Mm.
and there was no sign of Arnold or Ruby.
That's strange. You'd think if they were hurt, there'd be some indication.
Exactly.
And if they weren't hurt, why leave Tracy behind?
It's baffling.
It really is. And their disappearance led to a massive search.
Police, family, volunteers,
You were all out there.
combing the ditch, the surrounding woods.
And nothing.
It's like they vanished into thin air.
So what were the initial theories?
Well, at first, they focused on Arnold fleeing the scene.
Maybe worried about a DUI?
Right. Or maybe the couple wandered off, disoriented after the accident.
But those theories didn't hold up for long, did they?
No, not with such an extensive search and still no trace of them.
And then, 3 months later, there's a discovery that changes everything.
A local man spots a body floating in the ditch.
No way!
And get this, it's only 75 feet from the crash site.
75 feet.
75 feet.
And it was.
It was Ruby.
How could she have been there the whole time?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Multiple searches of that area.
And they missed her.
It's almost impossible to believe.
It's like something out of a mystery novel.
And it gets even weirder.
Oh no. What how?
They drained the ditch
Okay.
and found Arnold's body just 15 feet from Ruby.
Hold on a second. Didn't the initial reports describe the ditch as shallow?
Yes, some areas were even partially frozen.
So how did their bodies end up submerged?
That's where the conflicting information about the ditch's condition becomes really important.
If the water levels were as low as reported and there was ice...
Drowning seems less likely.
Oh.
It points towards the possibility of their bodies being moved after death.
Oh, wow. Okay, so someone moved the bodies. But why?
We don't know yet. But there's one more detail. A clump of Ruby's hair was found
Where?
on the road near the crash site.
So that pretty much confirms it. Someone moved them.
This physical evidence strengthens that theory. It seems like the scene was manipulated.
Maybe a cover-up.
Possibly.
But the question remains, who moved them and why?
We're going to have to keep digging to find those answers.
And the autopsies. Did they provide any answers?
Well, the likely cause of death was exposure.
But
the exact time and manner of death? That's still a mystery.
so we don't know if they died shortly after the accident or...
Or if they were alive for some time afterwards. It's all very unclear.
This is just getting more and more confusing.
And then there's the small detail of the keys
The keys?
found in Arnold's pocket.
Okay.
They weren't his keys.
Whose were they?
We don't know. And what they unlock.
Another mystery.
It could be an important clue.
Connecting Arnold to another person or a location?
Exactly.
So many unanswered questions. And then, on top of all that, we have multiple people claiming they saw Arnold and Ruby alive after the crash.
Witness accounts can really complicate things.
But they can also be incredibly valuable, can't they?
Absolutely.
One person claimed to have seen the couple getting into a car on the day of the accident. Another placed Arnold driving around with friends weeks later. And someone even claimed to have seen Ruby in a town 20 miles away in January.
That's a lot of potential sightings.
It makes you wonder if any of them are credible.
The police did administer polygraph tests.
To some of the witnesses.
Yes, most of them passed. But 2 individuals who claimed to have been with Arnold failed their tests.
That's suspicious.
Polygraph results are definitely something to consider.
But what I find really frustrating is that the police seem to have dropped these leads.
It happens sometime.
It leaves everyone wondering if any of these sightings hold any truth.
It's definitely something to think about.
It makes you wonder what else might have been missed in this investigation.
It does make you wonder. It really makes you question the thoroughness of the investigation.
Right. Like, were they just overwhelmed with the case or something?
It's possible. But regardless, we're left with so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, like what actually happened to Arnold and Ruby?
Well, there are two main theories.
Okay, let's hear them.
One is accidental death,
Okay.
but with someone moving the bodies back to the ditch later.
So that would explain why they weren't found during those initial searches.
Exactly.
And maybe even the different levels of decomposition between the bodies.
It's possible, yes.
But why would anyone move the bodies?
That's the biggest weakness of that theory.
Yeah, what would be the motive? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's a tough one to reconcile.
Right. It's a big risk for whoever did it, too.
Huge risk.
Especially if they got caught.
Exactly.
So the other theory, foul play, seems more likely.
Given the evidence, yes.
We've got the moved bodies, the suspicious sightings.
It does point in that direction.
But then we're left with even more questions.
Such as?
Like, if someone did harm Arnold and Ruby, what was their motive?
Was it personal? Random?
And how did they do it without leaving a trace? It's mind-boggling.
A lot of unknowns, that's for sure.
It's frustrating, you know? We have so little to go on.
It's the nature of cold cases, unfortunately.
And to make matters worse, Arnold and Ruby's families have voiced their concerns about the investigation.
They feel it may have been mishandled.
Yeah, and they believe their Native American heritage might have been a factor.
It's a valid concern.
Sadly, there's a history of systemic biases in law enforcement.
That's true, and it's something that needs to be acknowledged and addressed.
And statistically, the murder rate for Indigenous women is alarmingly high.
It's a serious problem that deserves attention.
So it's understandable why the families are worried.
Absolutely.
I mean, it makes you question the whole investigation.
It's natural to have doubts in those circumstances.
And then, adding to the frustration, there's the lack of transparency from the authorities.
The second autopsy report was never released, and key information was withheld.
Yeah, it's like, what are they hiding?
It definitely erodes public trust.
And fuels speculation.
People start filling in the gaps with their own assumptions.
Which can be dangerous.
It can lead to further misunderstandings.
Makes it even harder to find the truth.
Exactly.
And in 1999, the FBI, who had taken over the case, officially closed it.
They cited insufficient evidence of foul play.
But with all these unanswered questions, it's hard to feel any sense of closure.
I could see why.
It's not unsettling, you know?
It's a very unsatisfying resolution.
So is there still hope? Could the answer be hidden somewhere in all that unreleased information?
It's possible.
Are there connections we just haven't made yet?
Maybe.
I guess we just have to keep searching for answers, even if it feels like a long shot.
Sometimes a fresh perspective is all it takes.
Or a new piece of evidence.
Technology is always advancing. Who knows what the future holds?
That's true. Forensic science is always coming up with new techniques.
Exactly.
Maybe someday we'll finally know what happened to Arnold and Ruby.
We can only hope.
It's a reminder that even with all the technology and science we have today, some mysteries just stay unsolved.
What I find really interesting about this case is how it shows how unreliable our memories can be.
Right. What might have seemed so clear at the time gets all muddled up as the years go by.
Exactly. Details get lost, memories fade, and the truth just slips further and further away.
And it makes you think, what if the key to solving this whole thing is hidden in some tiny detail?
Some little piece of information that we've all just overlooked.
Yeah, like something that seems so insignificant at the time.
That's the thing with cold cases.
Yeah.
The smallest detail can end up being the most important one.
So, what do you think? After hearing all of this, do you think it was an accident?
Or something more sinister.
Are there any details that stuck with you? Anything that makes you question what really happened?
This case really makes you think about how complicated the search for justice can be.
It's about putting together all these little pieces of information, trying to make sense of conflicting stories, and always being open to new possibilities.
Exactly. You can't get stuck in one way of thinking.
Arnold and Ruby's story, even though it's tragic and we still don't have all the answers, it reminds us that every life matters.
And that every story is worth telling.
Every mystery deserves our attention. Maybe that's why we're so drawn to these cases.
It's that need to know, that desire to find the truth.
Exactly. And that's what we try to do here on The Deep Dive.
shine a light on these mysteries,
Explore the different sides of the story.
and hopefully get people talking and thinking.
Because maybe someone out there has a piece of the puzzle that we're missing.
A fresh perspective, a new thought, a different way of looking at the evidence.
That could be all it takes to crack the case wide open.
So keep thinking about Arnold and Ruby's story.
Don't let it fade away.
And if you have any ideas or theories of your own, share them.
Talk about it with others.
You never know what might lead to a breakthrough.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mystery of Arnold Arshambo and Ruby Brewer. Until next time, keep those minds working.